this video, I'm going to share what it's like living with the Borla catback exhaust on my Genesis G70. If you're on the fence about this exhaust system and you've got a lot of questions about it, then look no further because this video is for you. The topics I'm going to discuss in this video are: what is it like on the interstate, the city, does it drone, how does comfort mode compare to sport mode, and I'm also going to talk about the Burble Feature Borla specifically designed for this system. In my opinion, it gives this car the sound it needed and turns it into a proper sounding, elegant sports car. I've got tons of juicy exhaust videos to share with you, so join me for a ride as I tell you all about the Borla exhaust and hopefully answer any and all questions you have about it. So to start off, I want to give some background to better help you understand this exhaust system. So it is a valved catback exhaust system that interfaces directly with your stock actuators, meaning when you change the drive mode to sport, it opens the valves in the exhaust, giving you a much louder and much more aggressive tone. And then when you change the drive mode back to comfort, it closes the valves, resulting in a much quieter and tame tone. Additionally, Borla engineered a really cool feature into this exhaust system, which they told me was critical to the design of the exhaust. And that feature was to allow it to burble. Take a listen. All those burbles you're hearing are purely a result of the exhaust system. No engine tune or anything else going on here. And just a quick side note, the car only burbles this intensely in Sport Plus mode. So if this was freaking you out and you're like, wow, I don't want my car sounding like that every time I go to slow down, that's obnoxious, don't worry, because in comfort mode, it does not burble that much. Although you can definitely make it burble in comfort mode by accelerating hard to 2,500 RPMs and then dumping the throttle. But under normal driving conditions in comfort mode, it's often not noticeable. That's if it even burbles at all. Driving normally in comfort mode, most of the time it doesn't even burble, as you can hear right here. Now, in case you're wondering how exactly this exhaust system allows the car to burble without a tune or anything else, then you're in luck because I asked Borla and this is what they told me. So Borla said in an email to me that the popping happens when there is a sudden pressure change in the exhaust, usually when you're accelerating hard and then letting off the gas. This creates a pressure wave that travels through the exhaust and it pops out the back. Stock exhaust systems use something called a chambered muffler, which breaks up that pressure wave by bouncing the flow around inside the muffler. A straight through exhaust will pop, such as this Borla one, because the pressure wave travels all the way through the pipes and mufflers without getting broken up. So essentially, all the burbles you're hearing is a naturally occurring process that already happens in your exhaust system. Borla simply just isn't breaking up those pressure waves, and you're hearing those pressure waves essentially explode or pop out the back of the car. All right, so moving on from the technical aspects and the burble feature of this exhaust system, let's now get into what you probably came here for and are most interested in, which is what is this exhaust system like on the interstate and the city? And I want to preface this discussion by saying the following. There is a very, very obvious and notable difference between the stock exhaust and Borla. There is no doubt that once you put the Borla exhaust on your car and start it up for the first time, that you have a modded exhaust. So, having said all that, let's go over first what it is like driving on the interstate. So when driving in comfort with the valves closed, this exhaust is almost just as quiet as the stock exhaust when at cruising speeds on the interstate. I would say it's like no more than 5 decibels louder than the stock exhaust system. In fact, if I didn't know any better, I'd say it didn't even sound like a modded exhaust at all once you're on the interstate and you're cruising at a constant speed. And since we're on the topic of interstate driving, I wanted to address the topic of drone. Does this exhaust system drone? The dreaded question. Short answer is no, it absolutely does not. It does not drone, which is what Borla is famous for, their no drone technology. So you will easily be able to go and enjoy a long interstate drive with this exhaust system, as I have done many times. All right, let's now talk about city driving, because that is a bit of a different experience from interstate driving. And again, I don't mean that in a negative context. Allow me to explain. I just mean that because in city driving, you're always stopping and going and getting on the throttle. And because you're doing that, you definitely hear the exhaust a lot more. But it's not annoying or too loud, nor does it drown out any conversations you might be having in the car. The Borla exhaust gives this car a very nice deep tone that is, yes, noticeably louder than the stock exhaust, and yes, you hear it every time you're accelerating, but it's not annoying, nor is it too much. I think Borla nailed it with this exhaust system because it's not too cold, it's not too hot, it's just a perfect temperature. Also wanted to add, if this is of any consolation to you, my wife hates loud noises. She cannot stand loud things, but she doesn't mind riding in my car at all. The Borla exhaust does not bother her. It doesn't annoy her. So I just wanted to add that quick little tidbit. If any of you out there are concerned about your wife potentially not wanting to ride in your car because it's going to be too loud, like I said, my wife hates loud noises, and she does not find the exhaust to be annoying whatsoever. Okay, now let's talk about how it affects the sound for each drive mode, beginning with the default drive mode, Comfort, which is when the valves are closed. And just a quick disclaimer, I'm not going to talk about Eco mode because it doesn't change the sound of the exhaust, burbles, or anything like that. Eco mode sounds the exact same as Comfort because the valves still remain closed. So, having said that, talking about Comfort mode, the tone is definitely deeper, louder, and much more aggressive sounding than the stock exhaust. In fact, it's even louder and more aggressive sounding than the stock exhaust in Sport Plus mode, which you can hear for yourself in these clips. But as I stated earlier, although it is louder, it's not too much, it's not overbearing, it's just right. Now for this next sound comparison between Comfort and Sport, I drove up and down the same exact road, first in Comfort and then in Sport, which I'm going to play you the clips of right now so you can hear the sound difference. So I currently have the car in Comfort mode. I just switched it into manual gear 1. And what I'm going to do is accelerate up to about 2,500 RPMs and shift each time I get to 2,500 RPMs. And then I'm going to switch over to Sport mode and try and show you the sound difference between what it sounds like giving it same throttle and shifting at the same gear ratio. So here we go in comfort mode. I'm going to switch it over to sport. Still in third gear, same amount of gas. Now, unfortunately, the audio within these videos you're watching doesn't quite convey the sound difference between comfort and sport, but you just gotta trust me on this. In real life, there is a substantial and noticeable difference between comfort and sport mode. So much so that when I'm just cruising on the interstate, I don't want this car in sport mode because it's not overbearingly loud, but it's just kind of annoying. Like, I don't want a loud exhaust note when I'm driving on the interstate, which is why I keep it in comfort. All right, getting back on topic, let's now discuss what Sport Plus mode sounds like with the Borla exhaust. And from what I can tell, it doesn't really sound much different than Sport. But what is noticeably different is that in Sport Plus, you get significantly more and much louder burbles. Take a listen to these clips. Additionally, you also get backfires in Sport Plus mode, which do also happen with the stock exhaust, by the way. But with the Borla exhaust, they are much louder and significantly more intense. FYI, supposedly those upshift pops have been removed and tuned out of the newer model G70s. I read in some forums that Genesis changed the tuning on the engine for the 2025 and newer models so that they no longer have the upshift pops. I could be totally wrong there, but like I said, I read that in some forums. Don't know how true that is, but just thought I'd mention that. But getting back to talking about Sport Plus mode and how it sounds, I did want to add that if you want to experience the full potential of what the Borla exhaust has to offer, put the car in Sport Plus mode and just rip it, because it's way more intense and way more exciting than it is in the regular sport mode. All right, so next up, I wanted to talk about my one and only complaint with this exhaust, and that is this. Yeah, that nasty noise right there when you're driving with the valves closed and you're getting like 70 to 90% throttle range. It makes that awful, horrible sound. I don't know what's causing that, but it only happens when the valves are closed, which is good because I'm not normally ripping my car in comfort mode with the valves closed. I'm normally in Sport or Sport Plus, and that sound does not happen whatsoever when the valves are open in the sport modes. And I want to go back and re-emphasize when this noise occurs because I don't want you thinking it's a common occurrence. It rarely sounds like this, and actually had a pretty hard time even replicating that sound and getting it to make that noise for this video. It seems to only occur for me when I'm in comfort mode and I'm giving the car like 70 to 90% throttle. For example, I'll be sitting at a stop sign and I need to pull out real fast into a busy road. I don't floor the car 100%, but like I said, I'm pretty close to it. And that's oftentimes when it makes this noise. It doesn't just make it under normal driving conditions whatsoever. Like, you gotta be pretty close to putting the throttle all the way to the floor when in comfort mode. So all in all, this is a phenomenal exhaust system that gives this car the proper sound it lacked, but without being obnoxious, too loud, or overbearing. I would also argue that this is the best sounding exhaust system on the market for the G70 if you're looking for a catback system with valves that also interfaces directly with your stock actuators. So there you have it, folks. My quick little what is it like living with the Borla exhaust video. Hopefully this video helped to answer a lot of your questions regarding how loud is it, will my wife be annoyed, what have you. If you have any further questions about this system that I didn't address, leave a comment below and I will be sure to respond to you. I always try and respond to most of the comments and questions on these types of videos to try and help serve you best as the viewer. So with that being said, thanks for watching and don't forget, stay loud.